Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Dr. Jenny from the block, and if you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you're returning, thank you. And per usual, I'm here to drop some more gems. So today's topic has kind of been on my mind for a little bit of time, and it connects to a post I made on my Instagram page at Dr. Jenny from the block regarding the psychological buzzwords that I've been hearing a lot circulating around, and specifically the word toxic, right? You hear it everywhere. This person's toxic, toxic, toxic. And, I wanted to take a moment to kind of pull us back for a second, with thinking about using that word. And I don't believe that people necessarily are toxic. I do believe, though, that we engage in toxic behaviors. And another thing that came from these thoughts is that we're so quick to point out toxicity in other people, pointing the finger of like, you're toxic, you're bad for me, or X, Y, and Z. But I was curious about how much time do we actually spend thinking about our own behaviors, and have we kind of done a self-assessment in terms of looking at our potentially toxic behaviors? And I definitely believe that self-reflection is so important for change and growth. So today, this video is just meant to be quick to highlight just a couple of toxic behaviors that I often encounter when working with my clients. So let's just jump right on into it. So number one of the toxic behaviors that I see often is when I see people relying on others to meet their emotional needs. So what does that look like? Basically, it's when a person is expecting others to make them happy, to take away their suffering, to make them feel better about situations without putting any real effort or energy into their own emotional well-being. And oftentimes when I see people engage in this behavior, they get really upset when the person doesn't make them happy or doesn't make the pain go away. And that's a problem, because learning how to self-soothe, or like taking care of our emotions ourselves, is really crucial and critical to our ability to like maintain our own self-care. So if you notice that your happiness depends on what X, Y, and Z person is doing for you, you might want to take a second to step back and really do some self-examination about where that need is coming from, and start to figure out some coping strategies to take care of your own emotional state. Another piece of that too is that suffering is part of the human experience. So we can't expect people to just make all of our uncomfortable feelings go away for us. That's not fair to the person, and that's not really realistic for you. So if you're noticing that's coming up for you, go ahead and sit with that. And if you need further support, you can always consult mental health professionals. 2, hypersensitivity to feedback. So one thing I preface my therapy work with my clients is around me giving feedback, because that is inherent into my job. Like, I have to provide feedback about behaviors I'm noticing and I'm seeing. Now, I say this with a disclaimer, like, I know that oftentimes that people could be providing feedback that's based in a malicious intent or not for the purposes of being helpful. So I want you to really be careful to discern where the feedback is coming from. But if you find yourself avoiding situations where people are trying to give you feedback about a behavior, you might want to check in with yourself. When you do get the feedback, if you're noticing you're shutting down or crying or getting really upset and yelling and not listening, that's a problematic behavior. Feedback is really good. A really good source of just information to help us recognize maybe some areas where we can grow and improve. So instead of seeing it as some slight against who you are as a person, recognize the intention and the purpose of the feedback. Is it to help you grow? Is it to help you develop? And really try to sit with that. It doesn't mean that all pieces of feedback need to be honored, but it's really important to learn how to just sit with feedback that comes your way. So 3 is misleading others or engaging in deceptiveness in order to have some form of personal gain. I don't need to go into an explanation about this one. I feel like it's self-explanatory. If you are deceiving people and manipulating people, I think it's really important to think about what you're fearing. Typically, when people engage in these type of behaviors, they're afraid of the consequence, and usually the consequence is not getting the thing that they desire or not getting a specific need met. So it's really important for you to kind of sit with that and think about what are some more constructive and positive ways to go about getting your needs met so that you're not potentially harming other people. So I think that's the biggest piece. Like, let's reduce harm to others by being truthful. So number 4 is having a rigidity to understanding other people's perspectives and then using your own experiences as truth for everybody else. We all have different paths, we all have different abilities, we all have different resources, different levels of access to things. So I think it's really important for us to recognize and understand that just because we did something and we did it this way and it worked, doesn't mean that it's gonna work for other people. I think that's something that we really need to be aware of, and I think it's modeled a lot in our current social political context where people are just like, well, I didn't experience discrimination or anything, so therefore it's not real. We have to get out of that mindset, because as you can see with what is going on around us, it creates more disconnection and discord. And when you're able to engage in perspective taking, that's you flexing your empathy muscle. And when you're able to empathize with other people, you create more understanding and you create more connection. Number 5, blaming others and not accepting responsibility for your role in whatever. That can be conflict, that can be and a mistake. It doesn't even matter. This is something that, like, when I'm working with folks, this is something that comes up a lot. People are so quick to say, well, this person did this and that person did that, and not to slow people down and say, well, can you think about the ways in which your behavior also played a role in what happened? And this is so hard for people. I think it's really important to understand the role of perception. We may not perceive that we have done anything, but other people might be responding to us because of how they perceived our behavior towards them. And so it's really important for you to utilize that perspective taking that I discussed earlier to really think about how your actions could have come off or how it could have been perceived by other people. And if you notice that you're never wrong, that's something you really need to examine. We are all wrong. We all make mistakes. So if you're starting to feel like you're a perfect being who has not erred, however you pronounce it, in any situation, that might be a sign that you're engaging in some toxic behavior. And last but not least, not regulating your emotions and blowing up or shutting down. Yes, that can create some toxicity. Sometimes things happen and they cause us a lot of distress, but learning how to self-soothe and connect to the emotions that we're feeling, and then utilizing self-care strategies to relax ourselves, calm ourselves, and take a moment to step back from a situation is so important. Oftentimes conflicts with people get blown up when people just hear something they don't like and just jump into some impulsive type of behavior and blow up. That is not typically healthy. I've not seen it really work out well when I'm working with clients. Another one is shutting down. So when you're shutting down, you're not speaking, you're not engaging, you're closing off the opportunity for connection, even with blowing up. So both of them work in the same way, that they shut down opportunities for connection, they shut down opportunities to repair ruptures with folks, and then you don't feel any better. You might lose relationships, you might feel guilty and ashamed of how you reacted in the moment. So it's really important to recognize if this is your typical pattern of responding to maybe feedback or conflict, and just being mindful of ways to communicate what you're feeling to the other person and asking for what you need. So whether that's space to process what happened, if that's for them to slow down the conversation, etc. Regulating our emotions is such a valuable skill, especially as we move through adulthood. So these were like my 6 quick toxic behavioral things. If you're interested in learning more, drop your questions in the comments down below. I love it when you all give me feedback, when you share your thoughts with me about my videos, and I just really appreciate it. So like always, follow me on my IG page at Dr. Jenny from the block. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so you can be alerted when I'm dropping them gems. And keep your eyes out. I am still working on the giveaway self-care basket. It is coming together slowly but surely. And yeah, Y'all just have a good day and take care of yourselves. Be safe out there and wear your masks. All right. Bye.